Wow. Okay, lovely. And so, good morning, everybody. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So this seminar is titled "So You're a Trustee, Now What?" It can be a confusing process, so hopefully we are able to shed a little light for you. So this is for people who have been named executor trustees in trusts. And our objective is to help you understand the duties and responsibilities of being a trustee or an executor trustee of a trust. And the benefits of knowing your duties are you will be prepared when the time comes, meaning you'll be prepared when your loved one passes away. You will understand the process and you'll understand the lingo. There can be a lot of terms that are unfamiliar to a lot of people, and you'll have a network of great friends like us to help you through the process. And so,
Wonderful.
Debbie, right, please introduce the team.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marla. So let's meet your real estate planner. So uh, first we have Nozomi Ojihara, and she is a wonderful expert in the field of real estate, helping buyers and sellers make the right move. And she is also a Japanese speaker. Hi, welcome, Nozomi. I know she's joining us today.
Uh,
We also have, go ahead, Nozomi, say hello.
Hi everyone. I'm Japanese speaking and I've been doing real estate for 9 years. 日本語で、お手伝いできますので、いつでもご相談ください。よろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you, Nozomi. Thank you so much. And of course, we have Miss Marla Wong, and she is certified in probates and trusts. She's also a senior real estate relocation specialist. So welcome, Marla. She will be our moderator today. And then we also have Jermaine Revelo, also uh, a great realtor here in the San Francisco Bay Area. He was also part of our team. And then, of course, I'm Debbie Wong, and I am the broker, and I am a certified real estate planner. So as real estate planners, what we do is we help you build, protect, and transfer your real estate wealth for generations.
Thank you, Debbie. And so before we begin the information portion of our presentation, I will read our disclaimers. The information provided in this seminar is for educational purposes only. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the content presented, we make no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability of the information, products, services, or related graphics contained in the seminar for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. We disclaim any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation, indirect or consequential loss or damage, or any loss or damage whatsoever arising from the loss of data or profits arising out of or in connection with the use of this seminar or the information presented. The views and opinions, I'm sorry? Okay. The views and opinions expressed by speakers or presenters are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of our organization. Reference to any specific commercial product, process, or service does not constitute or imply endorsement or recommendation by us. We recommend consulting professional advisors or experts before making any decisions or taking any actions based on the information provided in this seminar. And so just to reiterate again, we are not trust attorneys, but we do know some. So please see a qualified trust attorney for more information or questions. And if you would like any recommendations, we'll be happy to provide some for you.
All right. Thank you, Marla, for that wonderful and detailed disclaimer. Appreciate it very much. So essentially, for those of you that have created a family trust, after its creation, your attorney will actually send to you a trust binder, and it's this really big, giant binder, a real binder. And inside the binder is going to be several items. So of course, there will be a copy of the trust agreement itself. And this is the main document that establishes your family trust. It has the names of the grantor, the names of the trustee, and the beneficiaries. It's also going to contain terms and conditions and instructions and duties inside that binder. There will also what's going to happen is that when you receive this binder, there will be a verification of the trust's existence, and it will dictate the powers of the trustee. So in their binder, you'll see possibly grant deeds. So if you own property, that will show ownership of real estate that has been included in the trust itself. And there will also be transfer details indicating the trust as the new owner. So when you look at how the property is vested, it will show, for example, Mr. and Mrs. John Smith, trustees of maybe John Smith Family Trust, that kind of thing. Also, there will be lists of assets. So if there are things that have value, such as artwork, jewelry, etc., that all could be listed there in the trust. And I would recommend that you provide some sort of valuation for these items as well, or maybe an accounting of how you obtained the item, where it came from, when it was purchased, and for how much. That would certainly help the person that's handling the trust determine what not to just throw away or, give it to the Goodwill. Don't give away the painting in the living room. Apparently it's from the 16th century and worth a lot of money. So these things you can also list in that binder, if you will. There's also going to be other lists of assets, such as bank accounts, maybe a list of securities, things of that nature, investments, life insurance policies. I recommend that you put copies of that in there. If you have, let's say, long-term investments with banks, like maybe interest-bearing accounts, that kind of thing, you probably would want to put a copy of those in that trust binder as well. There will also be an affidavit of the person that you asked to be the trustee of your trust, confirming that they have accepted that responsibility. Also, there may be medical directives like do not resuscitate instructions in there. Possibly power of attorney would be listed in this trust binder as well. And very important too, any changes to the trust over the years. There's a recommendation that many attorneys say that you should really have your trust reviewed every 10 years. Recently, when we put our first family trust together, we have a special needs child. And so that child, after 10 years, his needs have changed. So we've actually had to adjust the trust to reflect those needs. And, if we're still alive in 10 years, we'll adjust it again. So any changes of the trust should also be a part of this binder. And then there's also something called the pour over will provision. And essentially, this is a type of will that ensures that any assets not already in the trust at the time that you pass are transferred or poured over into the trust. A really great example of this is when you go to refinance your primary residence, let's say, you have to remove it from the trust in order for the bank to give you a loan or make the loan for you. And then when the loan is completed and you get your new interest rate, many people forget to put the property back into the trust. So this provision here just takes care of that in case that happens. So I know that was sort of a long-winded explanation of what's in the trust binder, but these are some of the very important things that would be included in that binder.
Oh, perfect. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Debbie. Are there any questions so far? No?
Let me see. And I'm also checking my text. I get a lot of text messages. There seems to be a couple of questions, but I think what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and finish up these couple more slides about what a trustee does, et cetera, and then we'll ask the questions.
Perfect. Okay, we'll just go forward. So So there are some differences between a trustee and a beneficiary of the trust, but a trustee can also be a beneficiary. So I think it's important to go over some of the key differences. So the role of a trustee or an executive trustee is to manage the trust, administer the trust according to the trust document, and they could also be a beneficiary, meaning they can also inherit assets from the trust. The beneficiary's role is to receive and benefit from the trust. A trustee has their responsibility is to be a fiduciary to the trust, meaning to act in the best interest of the estate and the beneficiaries listed in the trust. And they manage the assets and they adhere to the terms in the trust. And they also make decisions and they delegate responsibilities to professionals that they hire. The beneficiary's responsibility is to receive the benefits and to hold the trustee accountable for proper management of the trust. The trustee has the power to hold title to trust assets and has control over the asset management. The beneficiary has the power to hold the trustee accountable, but they don't have any control over the trustee they don't have any control over the trust themselves. And the trustee is supposed to communicate and provide information to the beneficiaries. The beneficiary can request information from the trustee, and they can also communicate if they believe that the trustee is mismanaging the trust. So, are there any questions so far?
None so far.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so Debbie, what does a trustee do?
Well, essentially, the trustee is to follow the instructions in the trust. So the thing is when you accept the responsibility of acting as a trustee for a trust, then you will be asked to follow the instructions again in that binder. And what I would recommend, oftentimes people will ask others early on if they wouldn't mind, helping when they pass with their trust and the management of it. And if you accept that responsibility, then it's okay to ask questions early on. So for example, we have a family member that says, hey, would you mind being the trustee of my trust? And of course, if you decide to accept, there's some really great things that you could ask them. One would be, well, cool, do you have a copy of your trust, or is it in a binder or in paper form, and where do you keep it? I think is a really good question to know, right? Hey, because if you don't know where to find it, you might have a really hard time going through, their personal items to find a copy of all of these important instructions, right? So it's okay to ask them, cool, do you have a copy of your trust and where are you going to keep it? So I will know where to find it. Because oftentimes there are other instructions in that trust binder that are really important. Like, for example, maybe there are some specific burial instructions. You definitely would also want to meet the other members of the trustor's family and other interested parties to review the trust and the pour over will. You would also want to meet, if it's available or if they're available, with the attorney who created the trust or the will, and other persons familiar perhaps that understand your business affairs, like maybe the CPA, the financial planner, bookkeeper, etc. Another really great thing to remember too, that when you're a trustee, is that you will need to obtain at least 6 to 10 copies of their death certificate. And that's because you're going to need to let everybody know that they passed away and that you are going to be handling their affairs. And so you'll be needing to provide them copies of certified death certificates. So that's a really important thing to know. You just can't, they would not just accept photocopies any longer when you are trying to handle these types of their affairs. You have to have certified copy. And those can be obtained either through the funeral home, or it can be obtained from the coroner's office or from the county recorder's office.
Thank you, Debbie. That was very illuminating.
Mhm.
Okay. And so what a trustee does is they also take care of stuff, literally. So they move personal items found within the estate to a vault, safety deposit box, or storage facility. They also obtain and maintain insurance of personal and real property, and they secure any ongoing business interests that the decedent might have had. So they review any contracts for the decedent that they entered into and make sure they adhere to those contracts and business dealings. And they also examine the books and files, meaning any financial documents and accounting documents that the decedent had. And they also give notice of death to banks, safety deposit box companies, storage companies, anybody who would have an interest in the estate. They would give notice of death.
Mhm. Really great stuff there. I really think that making an inventory list is really crucial and critical. And by the way, we do have copies of such inventory lists for any of our clients that are interested. So some of the things that you might want to put on your list is possibly any real estate that is owned, any property in other states or even other countries, uh, life insurance policies, tax waivers, cash accounts, household goods, monies owed to the decedent or monies the decedent owed, business interests, and security. So all of these are super, super important. And don't forget to automobile insurance policies, any type of bills, when we say household goods or bills such as PG&E, garbage, the mortgage, property insurance, all of these things have to be taken care of. And that's why if you have a trust, you created a trust, my advice is help the person that you've asked to be the trustee of your trust, help them out. Have copies of all of these things that would need to be shut down or managed after you pass.
Oh my gosh, so much
It
responsibility.
is a lot. Dying is the easy part. The real work comes after you pass. And so you want to make it as easy as possible for the person that you've asked to be the trustee of your trust.
Truly. So the trustee is also responsible for determining the value of the assets in the estate. So if there's any real property, they would obtain a what's called a probate comparative market analysis, or PCMA, and that is the value of any real property at the time of the decedent's death, as well as a current CMA, or current comparative market analysis, meaning the value of the property today's date. And these are all for tax purposes. They would also have all personal property appraised, and they would obtain all account and security information. So any value, or the value of any accounts. And you would use professionals to help you do all of this, like appraisers, realtors, brokers, financial planners, accountants, etc.
Wonderful. And yes, and why do you need to do all of that? Because you need to sell the stuff. So you have to determine the method and the time for sale for real estate items, securities that are not bequeathed, that kind of thing. And you have to hire the appropriate experts to administer the estate. So that's why uh, having a list of all of these professionals is really going to help you. And to be honest with you, the average person, the average lay person, doesn't have access to all of these different types of people. I mean, it can be very overwhelming. And we often help our clients with a complete list of people that they can use and professionals that have been vetted by us and utilized by us to help with all of these different aspects of getting valuations for these different parts of the items that need to be appraised and need to be sold. The other thing too that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you can pay yourself for your time and efforts. Typically, the amount of payment is between 0.5 and 1% of the total estate's value. The other thing too is a special account has to be opened in the name of the estate because there will be an accounting that will have to be made. So you have to keep track of all of the expenses and things that will help you determine what still needs to be done, sort of like a to-do list, if you will. So there is a lot that has to be done. A lot of paperwork has to be filed with the county as well.
Mhm. I believe you also have to talk to a CPA to estimate the amount of estate taxes and property taxes and income tax that the decedent will have to pay as well, or any taxes owed.
That's correct. And when you go to settle the debts, you actually have to publish notice to any creditors in local newspapers. Um, Perhaps, and I think there has to be at least two newspapers. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that it has to be, in an area that's easily seen, and where you give advance notice to creditors regarding any claims that they may have against the estate. And then once all of that is worked out, then and only then can you start to even begin to figure out what the amounts will be paid out to the beneficiaries. So, and I think that answers the question. If I may, I think we have, it comes to with the distribution of the estate. And if you don't mind, Marla, if I can go over this as well. Essentially, the trustee has to help prepare the data for final accounting, showing all receipts and disbursements for
Oh, do you want
payments.
me to skip to the next slide? Sorry.
Yes,
That's 3 slides from now. Okay, well, let me just go over this first. So,
sure.
and pay the taxes and bills. So you would close any accounts like utilities, water, PG&E, and garbage. But you would want to do this after you sell any real property because it's always best to sell to be able to turn the lights on and to throw away any garbage, and for people, for the property inspection, and then for any potential buyers to be able to verify that the hot water works. So you would leave the utilities on and then turn it off after any real property is sold. And then, so you keep paying property taxes and HOAs so that those do not become in arrears. And you gather any information needed for the tax preparer. You pay any inheritance and estate taxes. We were talking about that. You pay the income taxes, and then you make sure all debts and taxes are paid, but you would also verify any debts before you pay them. So that's our next slide, settle debts.
Mhm.
That's what Debbie was referring to. You make a public notice of the decedent's death so that any creditors that the decedent might have will contact the trust. And then, of course, you would obtain all evidence regarding propriety of each creditor's claim. And it's your duty to resist all improper claims. And then you pay out of the estate funds any approved and allowed claims. And you carry
Perfect.
out or adjust any incomplete contracts.
That's perfect, Marla. Yes, you bring up a really great point, is that if they do have an asset such as a home that needs to be sold, a lot of those items cannot be closed out until the home is sold, and then all of those can be paid off, such as utilities, et cetera, and property taxes and state and federal tax. The one thing too that I think should be really I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. But having a really great team to help you through is really what's going to help you get through something as you know intense as this. So
Yes.
From there, when Marla says settle the debts, you distribute the estate. So again, the trustee would have to prepare for the final accounting, and you have to save every receipt, and you have to take note of every, uh, disbursement and that kind of thing. And then you release each beneficiary's inheritance or distribute to a trust account, and then you close the trust. So you, at the very beginning, oftentimes, uh, especially when real estate's involved, when you get what's called the preliminary title report, a savvy title and escrow officer will let you know that you need to open an account in the name of the trust, because once the property is sold, the proceeds are going to roll over into that trust.
Mhm.
And only when the account has been proficiently uh, closed out, then the beneficiaries can receive their monies. And so that rolls us into the question. I've got two questions here from Susan. One is, well, how long does it take to create a trust? That's a great question, Susan. And, if you've owned, like, let's say maybe one personal property and a rental property and some items of art and maybe automobiles, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't take long to work with an attorney to put this all together. And typically, when you hire a competent California real estate attorney that handles trusts or the creation of them, they'll send you like a workbook where you fill out everything, what it is that you have, what it is, who you want, what to go and where and when and how much. You fill it all out, and then they create the trust for you, and they um, redo the title to the property into the trust, and then they'll send you a copy of everything into this big giant binder. And whenever you have a change, or if there's a new investment that you have and all that kind of stuff, you can put copies of all of those inside the binder itself for the person that is going to be your trustee uh, to be aware of. So again, I think I mentioned earlier that it's a good idea to pick someone who wouldn't mind the burden of taking care of all of this for you. Perhaps it could be one of your children, could be. My advice is not to pick someone that wouldn't be able to handle this type of stress, because it's going to be stressful, there's no doubt. So how
Well,
long would it take to create one? It could be maybe a week or two, depending on how available your attorney is and how long it takes you to fill out the workbook. I'm sorry, Marley, you're saying?
oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention as well that a trustee can also change their mind. So within that trust workbook, you'll be asked to list, I think, one or two alternates. Because again, a trustee, it can be a lot of work, and a trustee can change their mind, or they can say no. Or a trustee or an executor trustee might pass away as well. So alternates will be also listed.
Very
And
good point. Excellent. Excellent. I guess, and that's what the workbook is for. And the attorney does try to think of as many what if scenarios as possible. So that's a great and excellent point that you bring up. Um, and then one other question here. Hey, Deb, from start to finish, how long does it take before the heirs get their money? And that's a very good question. I think it really depends. If it's a very complicated trust with lots of property and assets that have to be appraised and sold, etc., it could take several months, possibly even more than a year or two or three. We recently did a probate for a gentleman who was the only child, and there was only one property, but the parents did not set up a trust. They'd been longtime owners of a family property. And then back then, if you were a husband and wife, the property automatically went to the surviving spouse. And then after husband and wife passed, it would automatically be thought of that the children would get the property. But a lot has changed in the last 10, 15 years. And counties do have a lot of taxation if a trust isn't created for the property. So it is popular now for just about everybody to have a trust. And also when we sell properties and represent the buyers, we ask them to please create a family trust and put the property in the trust as soon as possible. So how long does it take if it's a simplistic trust, maybe one property and, maybe a couple pieces of jewelry, that kind of thing. If it's easy to administer, it could be maybe 6 to 8 months. But if it's complicated, it could be years. We just had one where there was multiple properties, multiple heirs, and I think there was 8 siblings, and some of the siblings thought that the process was taking too long. I think it had been 2 years and not even one of the properties had been brought to market yet. So it could take a long time. It could be short. Don't know. It just really depends. But I think that the whole idea, and we talked to a lot of people that are retired and that maybe have the ideology, well, I have a trust, it's up to the kids to figure it out once I pass. My advice is to not do that to your kids, especially if you love your kids. Love them some more and set this up as best you can with as much instruction as you can. Make everything clear. Review it, maybe sooner than 10 years, maybe review it every 2 years, especially if you're perhaps not in good health and you just want to make sure that your wishes are going to be adhered to. That's my best advice.
That's very good advice. Thank you. We have a list of upcoming seminars. One is 1031 exchange swap until you drop. So we're going to have some really great information for you there. Divorce this home. So unfortunately, divorces do happen, and there's often real estate and other assets involved. So we're going to go over that and give you some advice or recommendations or what our experiences are with regard to that. And then how to avoid probate. Again, get a trust, it's a must. I think Debbie just mentioned that. So we're going to be posting the date and time, and they're probably going to be webinars for this year, but we might have some in-person trainings coming up. And we also have a Facebook page, Wong Real Estate Seminars. And thank you so much for joining today. Here is Debbie, our broker's contact information, her mobile number, email, and if you would like to book any appointments with Debbie and our team, we have our Calendly link available. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to providing you with information that you can use on our next webinar. So see you again soon.
Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye for now.
Stop recording.